Hi, I'm John from Just Whiskey. If you like today's show, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Patreon with the link in the description below. And thanks so much for the few Patreons that I do have that help support this channel. Much appreciated. And as a Patreon, you do have access to my exclusive Patreon reviews, and in the archives, it's over 30 so far, and I try to do one or two a month for the Patreons. So if that interests you, the link is in the description below. Today we're going to be talking about and reviewing Old Pultney 18-year-old, 46% ABV, no mention of chill filtering, no mention of coloring. And I'm going to compare it to the legendary Old Pultney 17-year-old. It might not be fair because this Old Pultney's been open for quite a while. And it's oxidized quite a bit, but it's still got it's still got the Old Pultney 17 DNA in there. This has probably been open for at least 2 years, and it was discontinued prior to 2017, I believe. This particular bottle of Old Pultney 18, I bought when it first was released in 2018. Okay, they discontinued Old Pultney 17 and Old Pultney 21, and they replaced it with Old Pultney 15 and Old Pultney 18. And they did that in 2018. So I bought this in 2018. In 2018, the price was high. So in 2018, I believe the 15-year-old was about $85. And this 18-year-old, I think, was $115. I might have paid between 110, maybe 110, 115. And now in 2024, the Old Pultney 18 retails for about $160, I believe. And at that time, during that transition in 2018 and even 2019, I was still able to find some Old Pultney 17s for around $100. So I have a couple unopened as backups. So Old Pultney is in wick and non-peated, and they call it distilled and matured by the sea, and they have rick houses or rack houses, and they also have dunnage warehouses. And the Old Pultney 12-year-old is it's made up of all ex-bourbon and first fill and refill, mostly refill. And unfortunately, that comes in at 40% ABV, but it's a delicious dram. And the Old Pultney 12-year-old it's a butterscotch bomb. Okay, so there's no sherry in the Old Pultney 12-year-old, and that Old Pultney 12-year-old is matured entirely in rack houses. Okay, the Old Pultney 15-year-old and 18-year-old, they call it double matured, and it's mostly refill ex-bourbon with some, I have a dust bunny floating in front of me, with some ex-sherry Spanish oak. My understanding, roughly, it's like 90% ex-bourbon and 10% ex-sherry. But they call the 15 and 18-year-old double matured. And the 15-year-old is comprised of casks from the rack house and dunnage. But the 18-year-old is made up of 100% dunnage matured casks. And I listened to an interview with the master distiller, and he said that it's matured for quite a long time in ex-bourbon, mostly refill, in dunnage warehouses. And then it's double matured in Spanish oak for a considerable length of time. So if I just had to, I'm just totally guessing, a shot in a dart in a shot in a dock, would be that maybe, we're talking maybe 12 years in ex-bourbon, and then maybe for the 15, 3 years in Spanish oak refill. But it's really not clear the exact science of this whole thing. But if I was to fathom a guess, I would say that, even though they don't say it, I would say this is natural color. Maybe they chill filter it. I don't know. And I would say it's like 90% ex-bourbon, 10% sherry influence, in my opinion. And even by the color, it kind of alludes to that, right? And Old Pultney too, they use worm tubs. Okay, so that covers kind of the background on it. So we're gonna do a deep dive into this review right now. And so the retail, like I said, the retail in the Old Pultney 18, I think, is about $160 now. So it was pricey then, it's pricey now, but what isn't, folks, right? Okay. So actually, I'm gonna do the Old Pultney 17-year-old first, because it's relevant in that way. So over here is the Old Pultney 17. So on the nose, it's a deeper, richer nose than the 18. On the nose, you're getting flowery perfume, fruits, leather. The palate, vanilla, a little bit of butterscotch. There's a herbalness in there, little anisey. It's viscous, well matured, with some juicy fruits in there. So some like juicy fruit gum, like fruit stripe gum or juicy fruit gum is there. And you're getting some leather, an old bookstore in there. So I think in the 17 that those sherry notes are a little more pronounced. And I'm just surmising, maybe because way back when, maybe the casks were a little better than what they've put into this 18. There's not a drastic difference here, though. Okay. The finish on the 17 is a medium finish, and it has a peppery, oak spice, peppery, black pepper that lingers on the palate. Very well integrated, lovely dram. I think I reviewed this a couple of years ago, so check out my archives. I'm almost positive I did. So check it out. It's probably a couple of years ago, though. Okay, so now onto the 18-year-old. Still a very nice nose. The nose in the 18 almost seems a bit deeper and richer, and albeit a bit sharper. And so those subtle sherry notes are there. Also the vanilla, butterscotch palate. On the palate, it seems a little bit lighter than the 17. There's also a slight burnt note in this particular one. And again, this is from 2018. They've had many batches since then, so I'm sure there's probably a little batch variation. The finish is a medium as well. Maybe a bit more spice, a bit more peppery spice, maybe in the 18 over here than in the 17. The major difference that I found is I think the old discontinued 17-year-old has more juicy fruit candied gum in there and a bit more of that old bookstore leather. The Old Pultney 18 does have that little bit of bookstore and old leather, but I'm not really picking up the juicy fruits on it, which leads me to believe that the Old Pultney 17 probably had slightly better casks overall. I would say the 18 is very similar to the 17, but maybe a little turned down, but the nose is a prominent nose as well. Yeah, a bit more tuned down, toned down, a bit more delicate. But I'll tell you, they're both very enjoyable. You just have to decide if you want to, spend the $160. But again, nothing's cheap these days, especially 18-year-olds. Both very nice. The Old Pultney 17 is legendary, so that's going to get at least an 8 out of 10. And an 8 is excellent, something special. I think the 18-year-old is damn close to that. And I hate to give it I shouldn't say hate. I'm reluctant to go a 7 out of 10 on the 18, but a 7 out of 10 is very good. Okay, so this 18-year-old is very good, bordering on excellent. But it's like two twins. Okay, it's like, they look the same, but if you look closely, you can pick out subtle differences, and that's kind of how I think a good analogy. Old Pultney 18, Old Pultney 17, they're like twins. There's subtle differences. The 17 is probably a bit more well-crafted, but just a bit more. I'll tell you, if I ever see independent bottling of Old Pultney at a decent age, 10, 12 years or higher, cask strength or close to that, single cask, non-chill filtered, I'd be all over that. And at some point, I'm going to review the Old Pultney 12-year-old, but simply said, it's a butterscotch bomb at 40% ABV. Very nice. So I'm going on and on and on here, but the 18-year-old is just a slight step, a very slight step, a baby step below the 17. All right. So if I had to, score-wise, 7 out of 10 for the 18, 8 out of 10 for the 17-year-old. I hope you enjoyed this Old Pultney comparison. Hey, my Henry was down. Henry the cat. Come here, Henry. You want to make an appearance? I almost got him. He's been hanging by my side quite a while, and he's not coming over here though. He's investigating. If you like today's show, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Consider becoming a Patreon with the link in the description below. Hats off to you all, and take care, folks.